So there's this theory that everything we know is an illusion. If we think about the fact that 99.9999999% of all that exists, we have no way of seeing with our senses, it begs the question, what is actually going on? While it's true that every atom or every speck of the universe contains infinity within it, and therefore we can take something visible, something simple like a finger, and everything is there. All forms, all patterns, all shapes, all permutations of reality could be there. In something we can see, we can point to. And that's just a finger. What happens when suddenly flames sprout from your finger? You didn't expect that, did you? What happens when you get in your car and suddenly it begins flying? You didn't expect that either. One day, it suddenly starts to float away. How could it be? How could it be? Like every other day, you thought it was a normal day. You're about to turn the key and go to work, or press the button, I suppose, nowadays. And that's it. Or actually, they don't even have buttons anymore. Do they even have buttons anymore? I don't know. Anyway, that's a whole other story. But that kind of proves my point, right? So one day we're turning the key, the next day we're pressing the button, the next day we're just sitting in the car and it goes. The next day, suddenly it's floating. And the next day beyond that, suddenly we're transported into an entirely different universe. Nothing like we've ever seen before. You know what I mean? The sky is orange, there's purple octopuses floating around talking to you and things like that, and you don't know what's up and what's down. 99.9999999% of everything we can't see. How crazy is that? Like, the magnitude of what is undiscovered compared to the little speck of what we know is exhilarating. I think that it's so fascinating how we're such a young, immature species in the grand scheme of things. The institutions that we have relied on for our bedrock of understanding, things like Christianity or things like science. Actually, I'll just say the word science, the entirety of it, are such a minute piece of the puzzle. All you would need to do is to take one little step outside of consensus, the boundaries of consensus reality. It's like that image, I don't remember what it's from, but you've probably seen this. It's this person peering behind the veil. There's all these stars. It's kind of an old retro drawing from, I don't know, the 60s or something like that, you know? It's got all the stars in the backdrop and he's peeling the curtain and looking to see what's on the other side. I think that can be used as a metaphor for different kinds of awakenings and maybe psychedelics and esoteric things and whatever. But it's kind of incredible to me that we have built and built and built and built all this knowledge up based off of observations of what we can see and inferences about what we can deduce from what we cannot see. And yet, all of that, all of the unbelievable body of knowledge is built upon certain assumptions and presumptions about how reality is. And those assumptions and presumptions, I believe, are starting to break down. So it's very possible that we may see the collapse of the entirety of structures like Christianity. All of the thinking that has been referenced and cross-referenced through the Bible, every name, every place, every story, and how that has proliferated throughout the entire world over thousands of years, so that we're all speaking that language even if we don't realize we're speaking that language. All the saints and all the things and this and that, everything is named after those things. Los Angeles, the San Andreas Fault, things like that. Weather, the geography, everything is named after these metaphors, these myths, these images, these figures, these saints and things like that from that story. Similarly, in science, it's all based on assuming we know something. There are always anomalies when we do scientific experiments, and we use statistics to wash it away. That was just an anomaly. We'll say something like that. 99.999% of the time, it works the way that we believe it works. So that's good enough for us. So here's the problem that I have with that, though, is that what is 99.99999% of 0.000001%? I'm trying to do the math in my head. That's not working out so well. But if we're entirely certain about something that's only one very small view, that's all that we're certain on, is one very small view. We don't know most of what's happening. We don't understand most of the bigger picture. What if the people who are the smartest people are actually not? Regardless of what domain they're in, let's say the people who are at the highest echelons of the tech industry, which is kind of spearheading human development in some ways. What if their assumptions and presumptions about reality are completely misguided or just not very relevant at all? So what I'm questioning here is that the bedrock and foundations of all of the knowledge we've accumulated thus far may actually not be useful, may need to be unlearned. That's a very scary proposition for most people. Because I think when you start to take away concepts, language, coordinates, it would be like going in your car without a GPS system and you don't actually remember or know how to get where you're going. You would have to figure it out. That's not a very good metaphor. That actually falls very flat, but okay. Hard to even talk about what unlearning really means. I think it requires certain things: fearless, brave, curious, open. Truly, in order to even begin to approach what I'm talking about here, there's a radical degree of mental openness that is required. And you put yourself in great risk, at great risk, or in great danger. So that the risk inherent in unraveling what we would consider to be our accumulated knowledge is fear of death, fear of not being able to survive or even make sense of what is happening around us. And that is just the price that you really have to pay. It at least is the uncertainty around not knowing how things will actually turn out. To truly let go of thinking, you can't also hold on to a couple of ideas just in your back pocket. You have to let go of all of it. But that includes the most cherished things, such as life itself. all your assumptions about yourself and your life. From the very simple as in, I am going to grow old and die, even that we don't know is true, even though it's seemingly one of the most, if not the most true thing, is that death. But we'd have to let go of, we don't even know if that's true. But also we don't know if we close our eyes and open them and walk outside, we don't know if it's going to look the same as it did all the rest of our lives. And I don't mean the gradual changes that you experience, like trees dying and houses being constructed. I mean, the road is made of lava now. Something like that. You know, a radical change that has no foundation in common sense, no foundation in practical knowledge, no foundation in science. Things that are so unbelievable, you know, there's a mythical creature flying in my front yard now. What's that? You know, those kinds of things. Things you might see in dreams. Things you might imagine. Things that are of that creative nature. Because who's to say that consensus reality, which is that kind of brick and mortar one that we go to work every day in, who's to say that that is any more real than your wildest, most bizarre dreamscape lands, or the most crazy artwork or visionary thing that someone has tried to bring forth into the world? Because all of that originates in the mind. So where is the difference between the crazy and the mundane? Well, I would call that thinking and conceptual overlay, including science, including religion, including language, including logic, and including emotion, including all of the kind of transient human qualities that make our human experience a really specific type of experience. You know what I mean? So we're kind of in that place between subjectivity and perception versus objectivity and reality, if there is such a thing. Like, what does your house look like to a caterpillar if you were suddenly transported into a caterpillar? Now, without any human conception, what would that be? But beyond that, what if there is no house? Beyond that, what if there is no caterpillar? And in which case, what is left? Not even left, but what is abundantly there? Because again, remember I said 99.9999999% of whatever there is what we can't see. So what all is that? Because it's not people, houses, and caterpillars, right? So, because that's what we know. We know those things. We don't know the rest of it. But I'll be honest, I do need to have a drink of water. And also, I think I'm going to make some breakfast. And so, as much as I would like to continue this thinking right now and talking right now, it is going to be time for me to say goodbye. And I was hoping to sit here for like a half an hour and keep talking and all that. I didn't really plan it out that well. Sorry, guys. But hopefully this was at least the beginning of an exploration that we can continue later. And I hope you have a great experience with whatever's going on with you, and take good care. Thank you.